Okay, this is a myth in the sports betting world that we need to bust. Books must not be allowed to limit sharp bettors. They don't limit winning sports bettors. I'll explain why that doesn't even make any sense. You know, there's billions of dollars laundered every year. There's probably like drug dealers who say, oh, this sports book limited me to launder their money. That's probably like what it is. It's just a lie that was spread by these frauds. I'll explain why it doesn't even make any sense. The sportsbook always takes in a bit more money than they pay out. That's how they make their money. Some people say like the house always wins. That's not exactly true. The house has a built-in fee. Okay, look. So these are common odds. Minus 110, that means you see this a lot. Two teams are minus 110. That means you got to bet 110 on this team to profit 100 for a payout of 210. This team, same thing. You got to bet 110 to profit 100 for a payout of 210, right? So the sportsbook will take in 220 and they'll pay out 210. I'll say that again. Every time the sportsbook takes in 220, they pay out 210. That's how they make their money. They always take in a little bit more than they pay out. They don't care what team wins. They don't care what sports bettors win. This is a myth. This guy's like 500,000 Twitter followers spreading false information. So if anyone says they're banned, it's like they don't even know what minus 110 means. The sportsbook, every time the sportsbook takes in 220, they pay out 210. So if they take in 2.2 million, they have to pay out 2.1 million. If the sportsbook takes in $22 million, they have to pay out $21 million, right? They always take in. They have to make sure there's a certain amount of money on each side of the line. Here's like a basic example that will hopefully help everyone explain. Hopefully help everyone understand. Okay. Let's say, I don't like making videos by myself. It's hard to narrate and hold the camera. Anyways, let's say Brazil is playing against New Zealand in a soccer game, okay? Brazil's going to be a big favorite. Brazil's going to be like a 10-1 favorite, okay? So if there's, let's say it's a smaller sports book, so we can deal with smaller numbers. If there's $10,000 on Brazil, that means there has to be $1,000 on New Zealand. They have to make sure there's a certain amount of money on each side of the line. If there's 30,000 on Brazil, that means there has to be 3,000 on New Zealand. Okay? If there's 50,000 on, like I said, Brazil's a 10-1 favorite. If there's 50,000 on Brazil, that means there has to be 5,000 on New Zealand. Okay? Pause right there. 50,000 Brazil, 50,000 on one side, 5,000 on the other side. So if some guy walks in and says, I want to bet $200,000 on Brazil, they can't take that, right? Because there'd be too much money on one side of the line. If there's 50,000 on Brazil and 5,000 on New Zealand, a guy can't bet $200,000 on Brazil because that would mess up the odds. There has to always be 10 times more in Brazil than on New Zealand. Now, what they would say is, they'd say, okay, you can bet like 3,000, and then we'll shift the odds, and then Brazil will become an 11-1 favorite. You see what I mean? That's what it is. If there's 50,000 on Brazil, 5,000 on New Zealand, a guy can't bet 200,000 on Brazil, as with Brazil being a 10-1 favorite. That's what it is. They have to make sure there's a certain amount of money on each side of the line. That's why they'll occasionally limit a bet. That's what it is. But hopefully we can get rid of this myth. This guy's like 500,000 followers. He obviously doesn't know anything about sports betting. There's nothing wrong with sports betting. There's investors that steal billions of dollars. Sam Bankman-Fried was on the front page of Forbes. He stole $10 billion. Then idiots like this guy attack sports betting. Anyways, yeah, hopefully we can put an end to this myth. Thanks for watching, guys.